Hi there, welcome to another episode of NetworkedAV TV, where we talk about the integration between AV and IT. I'm your host, Tasha Danner, and I'm joined by Josh Rush.
Hi.
How are you?
Good.
VP of Marketing from Audinate. And today, our very special guest is Ben Diger from Star Studio. He's a broadcast engineer. How are you today, Ben?
Doing great. How are you?
Thank you so much for joining us. We're just going to ask you a few questions. So first off, could you just give us a little bit of background on you and your work at Star Studio?
Sure. I've been working for Children's Minnesota for about 10 years, and the hospital, or our program in the hospital, has been around for about 10 years. So I've been here since the start. And we do live interactive TV shows that we broadcast to both Minneapolis and St. Paul. The kids are able to call into the shows and play games with us, like bingo or the guessing game or something like that, and win prizes. And we do about 13 of those a week.
That sounds really interesting. So can you tell us a little bit more? You have the two studios. About how many hours of production do you spend on that?
Yeah, we do roughly 10 hours of live content each week. We also produce videos that go on our channel that plays pretty much 24/7 all the time. Our general schedule is Monday through Friday, so it's roughly 2 to 3 shows every single day. Some are an hour long, some are 30 minutes. And it's with the staff we have, we're just doing it. And the main driving force behind that is just the actual feedback we get from patients and families, whether they're interacting with the show or just words we hear from them after a show when we round to the rooms and deliver prizes, just saying how thankful they are for us being here. Some parents will say they haven't seen their kids smile in weeks, and then they watch our show and they completely forgot they're in a hospital. Some kids would be in pain pushing the morphine button and not want to see anyone, not want to talk with anyone, and then our show comes on and they don't even push it once during the show. So we don't see ourselves as a replacement for medicine or anything, but laughter definitely helps, and being a kid in a hospital rather than just a patient is more important than anything. And we feel like the things we do on our shows allows kids to be kids again. So
Ben, that's a really great and unique way that you're using the broadcast technology in the hospital. So can we shift gears a little bit and talk about Dante and networked audio and the role that that plays in what you're doing at Children's Minnesota?
yeah, when we first started using Dante, we replaced our old analog audio mixers and got some Behringer X32s with Dante cards in them. And that allows us to connect both of our studios, because we have a studio in Minneapolis and we have a studio in St. Paul, and both of them do shows throughout the week, and occasionally we'll do shows at the same time. So we'll be intercutting between the two studios. So we usually want to have one of our studios running the entire show, and we're able to send audio from one mixer 12 miles all the way to our other studio with no delay. And that's kind of what really got us into doing digital audio, was just the ability, how simple that was to just connect it. And well, the rare thing in the industry is it just works, and it just works.
So actually, you started to touch on this, but what are some of the benefits of using networked audio and using Dante compared to the analog world that you were living in before?
For us, it's less cables and connections, and the audio still sounds the same. The delay is negligible. It's maybe a millisecond at best in our installation. And for us, we just interconnecting things and routing this and here and there. That's usually on my part of the job. To having to do that with wires, it's harder for people that work for us that don't understand that kind of tech like stuff, things that I do every day. It's a little bit simpler. I'm able to control things and change things remotely. I don't have to be in front of the mixer to change something. I can route whatever microphones and whatever outputs I want to any audio mixer input. So it makes it quite simple for us. And that was our key, as our analog system was not simple.
That was a great overview of how you're using Dante in the hospital. Can we shift gears a little bit and talk about where you see Dante going down the road? So some of the benefits around how you might purchase future equipment, expandability of your network, budgeting, things along those lines.
Yeah, from day one, we started on like a little mobile cart that we'd roll around to room, and the equipment we had, we were able to just plug in an Ethernet jack, but we didn't have a good audio solution once we added 2 studios to that. And our future goal is to be able to do that again, is to be able to roll a cart into the room and broadcast either the kid's birthday party that they wanted to share with everybody or something, or go into a playroom because they had the zoo in there, and that's generally where they were going to do it that day. And being able to have networked audio and just send a video feed, not have to worry about um, the way that's set up. Being able to just plug in an Ethernet jack and know that that device anywhere on the network will just show up on the input on our mixer wherever it's plugged in. And that's useful to us on a very high level. The amount of setup involved is once you set up that microphone and say this device is going to this input on this device, and you can plug it in anywhere and it just works, it's extremely helpful.
Ben, you were one of the early adopters of Dante Domain Manager, and you had a chance to really see it firsthand when we were still in the preview mode. Can you talk a little bit about Dante Domain Manager and what that's meant for your Dante network and taking it to the next level?
Yeah. At first, when we got Dante, connecting the mixers we found to be an issue because we're on different subnets, and that's why we went towards getting Dante Domain Manager. Getting that installed was relatively easy. I just mentioned virtual machine to our IT department, and they heard, okay, no physical server, or bare metal as I call it, and uh, it takes up very little resources. And I showed them exactly what they need to do. They did it, and now we're up and running. So it was a pretty simple process, unlike most of the things we do.
So it sounds like cross-subnet routing was really the main feature that drove you to look at Dante Domain Manager. There's also the other headline features like security and the ability to create user levels and permissions, as well as some of the alerting and monitoring functions. Can you just touch on those and if those are important in what you're doing with Children's Minnesota?
Yeah, for right now, we only have our 2 devices on our network, so we haven't done anything with security. But when we expand in the future, or if our IT department wants to use Domain Manager also, we don't want people rerouting devices on our system for their system. So having the ability to choose which people have access to what devices is also helpful. So hopefully in the future, we'll be able to add a device and then say, okay, you have access to these things for this meeting room, and our 2 studios are separated from that, but still running off the same domain manager.
You briefly mentioned before that your IT department was interested in using this technology for things like conferences and meetings. Can you describe a little bit more about that?
Yeah, because we only have our 2 studios, we haven't moved to broadcasting from other parts of the hospital, which is one of the things that was going to be very difficult with an analog system. Our IT department likes the fact that we're not having to run more wires or interrupt patients in their rooms if we want to just run a cable in there, because that all has to be installed in the walls. And because it's a hospital and we have IP phones, we're able to just plug into the back of a phone and we're on the same network as our Dante Domain Manager. And from an IT perspective, our IT department didn't really see any problem with the virtual server. It was set up in a way that was conducive to a enterprise workflow. The type of virtual machine it used. It was just simple.
That's great.
That's good.
Exactly.
Yeah, use that word a lot.
That's what we like to
Simple.
hear.
That's good.
Yeah. So Ben, if you were to peer into your crystal ball, it looks like you've gone through this transition, moving from analog to digital using Dante, now Dante Domain Manager. If you were to fast forward, a couple years and look at this convergence between AV and IT, how would you see that continuing?
Everything's going IP already from what I see. We broadcast our shows to our other hospitals and online over IP. Installing audio cables and video cables throughout an entire facility is not really cost effective when you've already got networking everywhere. And the fact that Dante has such a low overhead for network audio and being able to be on the same network as everybody surfing Facebook or YouTube or whatever at the same time, and our traffic still gets to its location nearly instantaneously, I see everything going digital, and it's already pretty much going there. It's kind of hard to look further than that. But yeah, digital everything. It's simpler.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Ben. It was a pleasure and we learned a lot.
All right. Thank you.